If you want to really open up the way that you comp and start adding fills in between the chords, similar to what I'm doing in the intro to this video, or maybe it's something you want to add to a chord melody arrangement, then you need to find a way to harmonize melodies so that you can also improvise those melodies. And that may sound pretty complicated, but actually it doesn't have to be that difficult. In this video, I'm going to go over some examples and talk about the techniques that I'm using. And this is really relying on the chord voicings that you're already playing, and also a really practical way of thinking about the pentatonic scale as chords. My name is Larsen, learn jazz, make music. So I'm first going to go over a few examples and talk about how I'm adding fills to different types of chords. And then later in the video, I'm going to go over some pentatonic exercises that are going to help you come up with your own fills using this way of thinking. The way I'm embellishing the D minor chord in this example is sort of using the fact that I can use other chords that are sounding neutral against the D minor as long as I start with something that sounds like D minor and ends on something that sounds like D minor. So that's also what I'm doing. So I'm starting with this D minor triad, just moving the melody around, and then this A minor triad, and then an A minor 7 voicing, and then clearly ending on this D minor 9. And because the A minor sound in the middle doesn't sound bad against the D minor in the context, because I already played the F in here, it's still gonna sound like a D minor chord. And as long as I end on something like this, we can still hear it's a D minor chord. And what I'm harmonizing here is essentially just an A minor pentatonic scale. And if I played it, instead of the melody that I'm playing in the example, I can also just play it as an ascending scale, like. On the G7 altered, I'm sort of combining the chord voicing with the altered scale position, and in that way coming up with some fills and some options. So we have this voicing, which is G7 with a flat 9 and a flat 13. And then if you look at this voicing and then look at the surrounding notes in the scale, then I would have this scale position put around it. And there I have a few notes that I can sort of change around. So the top one on the top string set, I have this middle string set, and then here on the G and D string. And that's what I'm using to create that melody. On the Cmaj7, I'm using a minor pentatonic scale to create the chords. So what I'm doing is that I'm using E minor pentatonic on top of the Cmaj7 chord. And if we just look at what that is, so if you have the E minor pentatonic, that would be E, G, A, B, and D. So E is the third of C, G is the fifth, A is the 6, the major 6 or the 13, B is the major 7, and D is the 9th. So it's really just a really nice Cmaj7 sound. The way I'm constructing the voicings is, since all the notes work on the Cmaj7, then I can just take a position of the pentatonic scale, and then for each string just choose one note, and it's gonna work as a voicing. It's not gonna clash in any way, and in that way I can create some different voicings like this. And then I can add some melody just using the other notes in the pentatonic scale, and that way I get an exercise like this one. In this example, I'm using the pentatonic scale on the 2 chord as well. So here I'm using a D minor pentatonic on the D minor 7, and a D minor pentatonic is essentially just a D minor 7 arpeggio with an added 11th, so a G. And I'm using the same voicings, so if we take the D minor pentatonic and then move that across, then we would have these voicings. But now I'm splitting it up, so I have a melody part on the B string, which is this. And then I have the chord, which is just the 2 lower strings that I'm adding in between, so I get. And if you turn that into an exercise, just moving down the neck from here, and then using the same idea, that would be something like this. On the G7 altered, I'm using a similar idea just to keep the same melodic idea happening, and I'm using the altered scale, so I'm starting with this melody note and then adding the G7 sharp 9 under it, so and then going to the next melody note, moving up to the D flat, and then just adding these notes under it, going down to the next melody note. And then from here, I'm moving into the Cmaj7, which is also really just using the same principle as the last one, but now splitting the chord so that we have sort of a melody part and a chord part. And that's a good way to practice working with the pentatonic chords on the Cmaj7 and also having a little bit of freedom is to play the chords in an exercise like this. The pentatonic chords that I've been using until now in the two examples have all been pretty much just moving along the neck on one string set. But there are a few other ways that you can work with this that are worth checking out. And I'm just going to go over some short exercises and examples that you can start working with to get your own ideas. These three examples are all on Cmaj7 and I'm using E minor pentatonic to create the chords. The first one here is using this position. And what I'm doing is that I'm sort of taking one side of this position and then creating chords there and moving up through the position. So first this chord, then this chord, and then this chord. And then I'm adding a melody note in between, so. And then ending on this Cmaj7. This next one is pretty much the same concept, but I'm using another position. So now I'm using this version of the E minor pentatonic, and then I'm playing the chords here and here, and then moving up, ending on this Cmaj7. In the final example here, I'm using one melody note and then two different chords, which is kind of the opposite of what I did in the 2-5-1 examples. So what is happening here is first, of course, Cmaj7, then going up to the B, and then under the B, I have two different chords that I can use, and that's first this one and then this one, really just coming out of the position, so really out of this position. Then I move the melody down to an A, and then I have these two chords down to a G. Then I have these two, where this one's a little bit difficult to play, but and then ending on this Cmaj7. If you're looking for more inspiration for finding voicings and progressions that you can work with, if you want to add some fills to it, then check out this video where I'm going over 15 sets of rootless voicings for a 2-5-1 in the key of C major.